So you've realized that you were alienated from a parent. Now what? How do you survive this emotional disaster? That's what this video is going to be about, so stick around and I'm going to try to give you my best tips. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Alienation Project. My name is Maddie, and here I talk about all things related to a certain form of severe child psychological abuse that I went through for 20 years. I speak about this form of abuse on my project. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's called parental alienation. Parental alienation involves one really angry, spiteful parent, often during a custody dispute or a divorce, but not always, who goes on an obsessive rampage to manipulate their child into rejecting their other loving parent without true justification. This is a really severe and long-lasting form of psychological abuse. If you're here today watching this video, chances are that you are going through one of the toughest experiences imaginable, which is realizing that you have been alienated from a parent. The confusion, the pain, the grief, the questions about what is true and what's not, who are my parents, who am I, what is real. It can be totally overwhelming. You're not alone. This is what I went through 2 years ago. In today's video, I'm going to dive into my best tips from how I survived the most horrible and traumatic first few months upon learning that you've been through this. It was like an emotional storm. I want to try to help others find clarity and healing in those first few crucial months of figuring out that you've been through this psychological abuse. Before we get started, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell, like the video to get this in the algorithm so that more people can learn about parental alienation. Let's get into it. My first tip is to let yourself feel. It is completely normal to have a wide range of pretty turbulent emotions during this time. In fact, I would be concerned if somebody actually went through severe alienation and didn't have a really hard time coping with it upon learning that you'd been through this. I mean, we're talking guilt, even shame, sadness, fear, anger, possibly hope or joy for the future, hopes for your relationship with your targeted parent to improve. But there's also just so much grief and confusion. A lot of confusion. It's all part of the process. Every one of those emotions is telling you something, is trying to express something to you. And what I found really helpful is that every single day I did a pretty long 20-minute journaling exercise in the morning, first thing in the morning, and last thing before bed. Here's what I journaled about. I started by journaling about all of my emotions that I was feeling until I couldn't think of any more. And a lot of the time it would be confusion. I don't know what's real. I don't know what's true about my parent. Either parent, I don't know what is true. I can't work through the lies. Anxiety. I had a lot of fear because I had been really intimately betrayed by my alienating parent. I had a lot of fear to even be around them. I felt like I couldn't trust people. I felt like I couldn't trust myself to know who to trust. So a lot of fear and actual panic attacks, actual anxiety attacks throughout the days. So I would say that the emotional journey in the first few weeks was definitely the hardest part. If that's where you're at, please know that this is the worst part right here, and it gets better. It does. You just have to feel the emotions. You just have to go through these painful first days. I read this study a while ago, like in college, that techniques they give to soldiers who are going into combat when they're anxious and nervous and to try to get their anxiety down is they teach them to label their emotions in their head and the reason why they're feeling it. So that's what I would do every morning and every night. I would label my emotions. So for example, sadness. And then I would try to pinpoint why I was feeling that emotion of sadness. And it was, for example, I missed out on so much time with my dad. And then I would move on to the next emotion. Just simply writing down the emotions helped me sort through the extreme confusion. So after I would write down my emotions in the journal, I would write down some statements, grounding statements. I can trust myself. Whatever statements you want to believe, whatever statements help you feel calm and grounded. And then it can also just be really helpful to write down all of your thoughts, all of your feelings without any filter. You really need a safe space to be able to process everything you're going through. That brings me to my second tip, which is to seek professional help. The emotional weight and burden of going through all of this is too much for any one human to deal with on their own. If you're coping to make sense of everything, or if you're having a lot of negative emotions about yourself, struggling to cope with how you have been used by your parent, I highly suggest seeking professional help. For the first few weeks and months where I was wading through this emotional trauma of learning that I had been completely used and manipulated by one parent to hurt the other, and robbed of 20 years I could have had a healthy, happy, loving relationship with my dad, I was going to therapy, intensive therapy, twice a week. So that's what I needed at this time. You might need something different, and that's okay. But please, there is no shame, no guilt in going and seeking professional help. That being said, I found it very helpful to have a therapist who did not validate everything I said or told her. My therapist is so awesome. She challenges me, but she doesn't challenge me in a mean way. She just gently challenges me, but she really does challenge me. And I know I wouldn't be at where I am at in my healing journey without my therapist. So if you have a therapist who's willing to research and learn about parental alienation, personality disorders, childhood trauma, hopefully they already know about it, but if they're willing to learn, as long as they're a therapist who will gently challenge you, help you get to the truth while keeping you grounded, I think that would be the best type of therapist for an alienated child. At least that's what I needed. I needed someone who was going to help me figure out the truth about my parents, my life, which a child shouldn't have to put the pieces of their life together without their parents' help, by the way. There shouldn't be that many lies and secrets and manipulation, but that's what we have to do usually when you figure out the truth, and professional help is going to be essential when it comes to helping you get through this. My third tip is seek many objective perspectives. What do I mean by this? I mean, find the people in your life that you trust and people in your life that you know have information you need, and, approach them. It might be scary, but it doesn't hurt to approach them and ask them questions. Tell them the situation that you're trying to understand, parts of your life that you were made to believe lies, and now you want to learn the truth, and ask them if they'd be willing to be completely honest with you. I did this. I said often in my earlier videos, I was like a little detective looking for evidence at this point in my life, and that is exactly what it was. So little detective Maddie with my detective hat on was like calling around to my aunts, calling around to my grandma, calling around to friends that I've had since high school, calling to my dad, calling my stepmom, calling tons of people in my life, and putting together a more comprehensive perspective. And the odd thing that I found in doing this is that these people that I talked to, they kind of all had the same version of the story, which was not the story I had made to believe all that time. Because so many of them corroborated the same things, that my dad does love me, that he always loved me, that my mom lied about this and that and the other thing. And their genuine responses too, just of like shock and disbelief and horror and sadness and a little bit of anger sometimes too, I think showed me that I had been like severely manipulated. It's crucial to get perspectives just outside of your immediate emotional circle. And that goes for any time that you hear stories or accusations. It's always good to verify the information if you can. If possible, I think that one of the most important things you can do is have an open conversation, an open, honest conversation with your parent to hear their side of the story. There is a way to approach them. I know it's so scary, and it was so scary for me, but it was also the turning point in being able to trust my dad and know that he was telling me the truth when I told him everything that I was made to believe about him. And I still wasn't sure of the truth at that point, so I was terrified because, telling a narcissist you believe they're a narcissist is scary. It was his genuine reaction that told me that he loved me, and he had no idea what had been going on behind closed doors. There are multiple sides to every story. Everybody knows that. And I think when you're trying to figure out the truth, it's really important to consider all the different people and all the different sources you can look to find information. Okay, this is a really important one. The next tip is to set boundaries. I am shocked by the amount of people I've talked to who've been through this severe abuse as a child, who reconnected with their targeted parent for a bit of time, and then because they never set boundaries with their alienator parent sabotaged the reunification process with their targeted parent. So they were alienated twice, essentially. It is crucial to set boundaries with your alienating parent if you're going to be able to heal properly, if you're going to be able to heal at all, take care of your own emotional well-being, or reunite with your targeted parent. I'm not encouraging everybody to go no contact. Some people might need to go no contact. Others might be able to set boundaries and maintain a more superficial relationship. Boundaries in this situation will give you the space you need to figure out for yourself what's true. Make sure these boundaries are clear, respectful, and communicated effectively. Make sure that that person knows that this is something you need, and you can even tell them, I need this to be able to have a relationship with you. So that way, if they break the boundaries or don't uphold the boundaries, they will understand that's why you can't have a relationship with them anymore. I know it might seem extreme, but this is almost the most crucial tip I have. Here's how I'm going to break it down. Now, people might disagree with this, but this is just a metaphor I had about this whole entire thing in my own life, and I wonder if anybody can relate to it. In my opinion, the alienator and the abuse, it's akin to a toxin. It's just a toxin, like a poison. And when you see the abuse start and the child becomes alienated, it's really sad. The child will go downhill. Almost every aspect of their life suffers. Over the years, it gets worse and worse usually. And it's because they're being fed poison, toxin, for years. So eventually, the toxins build up. Then we start to see even more serious effects. Severe eating disorders, suicide, ideation, even self-harm, the toxin and the hate and the self-hatred, because that's an effect of all of this abuse, it can become too much. And so I say all of that because when you realize the truth, you realize, you've been betrayed and manipulated and hurt. You have to really sit down and consider what has been that toxin. And in my opinion, the toxin in the situation is the abuse, the abuser. Many people have probably heard that quote, it's hard to heal in the environment that broke you. It's almost impossible to heal while still injecting the toxin that was trying to kill you. It's going to be really difficult if you're still injecting the same amount of toxin to heal from this. You have to purify yourself. You have to sterilize the environment. You have to get rid of the toxin. It's going to have to take a while to leave your body. You're going to have to do a detox. In my opinion, if you can manage to lower it so you're only taking a little bit of the toxin, you're only taking a little bit of the abuse from that parent, because usually, if in the severe cases, because they really won't stop hurting you, I found. But if you can manage to put up some boundaries and just try to take as little of the toxin as possible, and that works, I guess that would be an alternative to cutting off a parent completely. But please, please, please make sure that you are acting from a place of self-respect and that you're not jeopardizing your own health or your own sanity or your own family and the peace in your own family for a parent who has mistreated you. Okay. My next tip is to focus on your authentic self. So my next step is focus on your authentic self. This might come a few weeks after figuring out the truth. During this emotional crisis, when you're trying to figure out who your parents are, you might also start to reconnect with some old hobbies or activities or passions of yours. If you're struggling to make sense of everything and cope with everything, it's going to be really important for you to have an outlet, at least one, preferably multiple outlets. And these are activities that nourish your mind and your body. For me, that was exercise and journaling and writing and yoga. That was it. But this could also be meditation or reading or spending time with friends, walking in nature. Prioritize whatever makes you feel good, whatever makes you feel like yourself. If you're unsure about what that is, just start brainstorming activities you've done in the past that you used to love, passions you've had in school before, any type of exercise or any type of activities that you just really enjoy, or things you think you might enjoy that you haven't even tried yet. Taking care of yourself and kind of coming back to who you really are at your core is going to help you build resilience and help you get through this. My last step, and I've lost track of which number I'm on, but it's still towards the future. So I've said this before, but what I did is I took some time away. I took some time away to think about what would be my most wonderful life. It's really important to actually visualize this. Get time to yourself, a few hours or days if you can, and really think about, visualize your most wonderful life. While it's important to process your past experiences, it's equally important to start thinking about where you want to go from here, to become excited and hopeful for the future. This could include career goals, goals for your family, goals for your social life, goals for your spiritual life, physical health. The sky's the limit. It's your life. You're the designer of your own life. Set small, achievable goals to start, and as you start hitting your small achievable goals, you'll set larger and larger goals. And focusing on your future is really important. It can build purpose and hope. That's vital when dealing with this horrible, horrible trauma. A lot of these things, by the way, that come to mind for you, and when you think about your most wonderful life and like what that entails, don't be surprised if a lot of it is scary. If things that you really want to do deep down are scaring you. That's how it was for me, at least. I was scared because in my most wonderful life, I wasn't living in the state that I was living in. I wasn't living in my hometown, 10 minutes away from my alienator. I was living in out west. I was living, at the other side of the country. And so we moved to Utah. We literally moved. And that might not even be possible or feasible or something you're interested in. I just give that example because what came up for me and what I wanted out of life wasn't easy or comfortable. Things that came up for me were actually scary, terrifying even, and they seemed out of reach. So I set small, achievable steps. I had an entire, two poster boards with all of my goals and steps, and it was crazy. And if you're not type A like me, you're probably not gonna do that, and that's fine. Don't be afraid to go for the goals. Go for your big goals. Go for what you really want in life. Finally, a few people who are further along in this journey have often told me healing from this type of severe psychological child abuse is a lifelong journey. It's not going to be linear. You're going to have days where you're afraid, oh my gosh, the way I'm feeling, I feel so many emotions. I'm worried that I've backslid in my healing process. No, you haven't. That's just the way this goes. You may have easy days, easy weeks. You may have stable months or years, and then you get hit by another emotional hurricane. And it's okay to take it one step at a time. I'm so sorry that you've been through this. I think this is one of the most difficult things a person can go through. What's been really important for me is rebuilding my relationship with my dad. It's been the silver lining for me to be able to get through all this, as well as my relationships with my husband and my kids. But if you're out there and you're scared to reconnect with your targeted parent, please know it's okay to take it one step at a time, but please take that first step. That relationship might be the saving grace that can help you heal and get the true unconditional love that you always deserved. I know that's not the case for everybody, and some people have two parents that really struggle to love them unconditionally. But if you never ask for their side of the story, and if you never reach out and give them a chance and challenge the beliefs you've been made to believe, you'll never know. And in my opinion, living with that guilt, living with that what if, would be worse than knowing the truth. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with anybody who might need it. If you've been through this too, What else helped you? What am I missing here? What are some other good tips for the crucial first steps of just surviving after learning you've been an alienated child? Please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay strong. Please take care of yourselves. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.